Coming up on Network Africa. East African countries, Kenya and Uganda step up security in the wake of the Paris attacks. "15 bodies of African migrants found by Egyptian police in the turbulent area of northern Sinai near the border with Israel. And clashes in the Burundi capital Bujumbura claims 4 lives as insurgents attack the mayor house during a night of violence. Hello and welcome to Network Africa. I am Adeshewa Josh. A lot happened over the weekend in Africa and around the world. But before we bring you stories making the headlines this hour in the continent, here's a summary of what transpired in and around Africa over the weekend. On Saturday, November the 14th, the Pentagon says a U.S. airstrike has targeted the leader of the Islamic State group in Libya, Abu Nabil, and has probably killed him. The Iraqi national was a long-time Al-Qaeda operative. The strike took place late on Friday night and targeted a compound in Derna, Libya. The Pentagon said the strike showed that it will go after IS leaders wherever they operate. News agencies have quoted U.S. officials saying they are confident Nabil was killed. And while the offensive against ISIS intensifies, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari added his voice to the list of world leaders who condemned the Paris attack, which killed 129 people and injured about 350 on Friday night. President Buhari said the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria commiserate with the families of the victims, even as he condemned the senseless killings. The gunmen and bombers, believed to be Islamic State militants, launched a series of coordinated attacks targeting the Bataclan Theatre during a rock concert, an international soccer match at Stade de France, and a string of restaurants and bars. 7 of the suspected jihadists died while detonating the explosives. Meanwhile, Egypt's Great Giza Pyramids lit up on Sunday, November the 15th, in solidarity with the victims of the attacks in Paris. Antiquities Minister Madu Al-Damati said Egypt will stand against all acts of terrorism. South African athlete Oscar Pistorius has begun serving community service a month after he was released from jail. The Paralympian was granted parole after serving 1 year of his 5-year sentence for killing his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp in 2013. He must perform community service under the terms of his release. In his first public appearance since then, he reported to a police station in Pretoria on Saturday wearing sunglasses and carrying a backpack. He is serving the rest of his sentence under house arrest at his uncle's home in the city. And now to the business of the day. In the wake of the Paris attacks on Friday night, in which about 5 Africans are believed to have been killed, Kenyan and Ugandan security forces have stepped up security in and around their borders. And this is not unrelated to the fact that both Uganda and Kenya have experienced attacks by the Somalia-based militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab. In April this year, 147 people died when a university campus in the Kenyan town of Garissa was attacked by the militants. Uganda's army spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Paddy Ankuda, alluded to the fact that threat of terrorism is real in Uganda. In Nairobi on Sunday, there were more police officers outside churches and shopping malls. Kenyan and Ugandan soldiers are part of an African Union force in Somalia, which is helping the government battle Al-Shabaab. Now, let's give you facts about the Paris attacks. African casualties were actually recorded in the course of that attack. 5 Africans are now believed to have been among the 129 people killed in Paris on Friday night. Moroccan architect and teacher Amine Mbombarak, age 29, has been named by the Moroccan Times newspaper as one of those killed at the Carillon bar. 2 Tunisian women, sisters from near Bizerte, aged 34 and 35, were also killed That's according to France's BFM TV. They were celebrating a friend's birthday. And according to APS news agency, 2 Algerians were killed. The victims were a woman aged 40 and a man aged 29. Now, for more on the security before in Uganda and Kenya, I'm now being joined by Joshua Poro. He's a broadcast journalist. He joins me now from Kampala. Thank you so much for making our time to speak to us on Network Africa.
You're welcome.
Now, do we know if this threat that your country is stepping up security for is a new threat or is just a response to the Paris attack?
Well, you know, first of all, we must realize and agree to one fact that so many of these Muslims or people are just hiding behind religion to commit grievous atrocities. And Uganda and Kenya have both already suffered these atrocities. If you do remember, Ugandans were bombed in 2 different locations. We call them the Kampala twin bombings when they were watching the World Cup finals. And also in Kenya, in Garissa, in Mandera, in Machakos, so many of these people have already faced the wrath of the Al-Shabaab militant Islamist group. Now, if you do realize the Al-Shabaab Islam militant groups are they have actually come together with the Al-Qaeda. And if you realize the Al-Qaeda are subscribed to the Islamic State militants. So they are planning a series of attacks all over the world. They are planning to attack several European countries. So just as a measure of being careful, we as a country had to put up some security measures, step up our security, step up our vigilance against these militant groups of Al-Shabaab. If you do realize, Ugandan troops and Kenyan troops are fighting the Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And recently, if you do remember, the Al-Shabaab do claim that 50 Ugandan soldiers were murdered in an attack where they actually ambushed the Ugandan camp. However, the Ugandan government did say there are only 19 members of the UPDF or the AMISOM group who were murdered in Somalia. So what we are doing is basically stepping up security just to make sure that we do not experience another imminent attack by the Al-Shabaab. So there is police deployment all over the place. Supermarkets, the checking has actually gone up. In churches, there must be checking. In big restaurants and supermarkets, the checking has grown immensely strong just because we want to avert another attack that could easily occur basing on the fact that the Al-Shabaab militants have actually issued threats to so many countries.
Okay, so the easy part is always to put out the more police presence and to make sure that places where a lot of people go to are very secure. But the hard part, supposedly, is intelligence gathering. What specific measures is the Ugandan government taking to gather more intelligence in a bid to protect its people more?
Okay, if you do realize, we have a place in Uganda here called Chisenyi. Now, Chisenyi is actually a slum in downtown Kampala where you find so many members of Somalese origin. These are a very important and strong source of information for the Ugandan government. That is keeping an eye down with the locals. However, there is a campaign that has always been going on in Uganda, and they use a slogan which says that you are the eye against terrorism. So people are extremely vigilant. Several times people have called the police because they have found bags that have been randomly abandoned. So many times people have called the police because they see a woman with masculine features and they look like men who are dressed up in female clothes, and then just to find out they are females. However, we most cases get our intelligence from the U.S. mission here in Kampala. That is the U.S. Embassy in Kampala. They give us lots of intel and lots of information. They always work hand in hand with the government to ensure that we have all the information we need. However, we also have the counter-terrorism unit within the police. These people carry out investigations and find out all the kind of sort of intel that they want. Not forgetting the AMISOM troops in Somalia also try to gather some intel to make sure that we have all the information we need. So if you have all these things, all these people coming together to share their information, share their intel, it's a very, very good way of gathering information, and it's through these ways the U.S. Embassy, the Somalis downtown Kampala, because the government actually gives them refuge here in exchange for information. So if you have all these people coming together, then we have eminent information. We don't even have to struggle with intel.
All
We
right.
always have it at a blink of an eye.
Let me ask you this last one. Uganda has been quite peaceful since the July 2010 attack in Kampala, where more than 70 people died in a bar and restaurant while watching the World Cup final. What has been the reaction of the public to this new heightened threat alert in your country?
If you must agree with me that people of the same race will always care about each other. If you watch CNN has been broadcasting the France thing live from France for the last 3 or 4 days. But they did not do the same when Garissa University was attacked, where over 120 people died. The same number of people who died in France. So many Ugandans are actually saying that, you know what? Let's have our solidarity with our fellow Ugandans. We believe loss of life of an individual is nothing good to go by. It's nothing favorable. It's nothing anybody likes. But listen, when the Kenyans died, no one cared. They broadcast it as the 5th part of their news. Nobody cares that Africans are dying. When the French die, the whole world comes to mourn. So if you come to Uganda, the situation is normal. Nobody really cares much. Like when people were murdered in Garissa University, when a bus was attacked in Mandera, when a village was attacked in Machakos in Kenya, all these things come together. When those happened, when the Westgate shopping mall was attacked, Uganda was at the brink. People were paying so much attention. People were actually standing together with the people of Kenya.
Right.
We have, of course, not forgotten to send our condolence messages to the people of France, but it's not the same feeling like the Europeans are feeling right now.
Okay, so Josh Borough, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's take you on a short break on Network Africa. When we come back, I'm going to be asking, why do many Africans go through the horror of migration? I'll be speaking to an African migrant live after the break.